Welcome back. We're here to talk about Saturday's Premier League match between Everton and Manchester City. Start with the visitors, Matt. Big win against Sunderland last time out, put them joint top of the table.
So important, wasn't it? They were 2-0 up in that game. Torres scored an absolute worldie, didn't it? It was rising as it hit the net, and you thought it was going to be comfortable, maybe 3-4-0, but they came back. Sunderland came back like Burnley did, and if they'd have drawn that game, it would have been so disappointing to their chances. Obviously, not to their chances, but to go top of Chelsea at this stage. I mean, Chelsea was so far ahead, weren't they? At one stage, sort of 9 points ahead, but City managed to claw that back, and Frank Lampard coming in and get that goal. I mean, he's obviously staying to the end of the season now, which is really big news for them because he pops up with important goals, and it just happens to be that he's stopping Chelsea from sort of pulling away and to actually win that game. Like I said, after what happened against Burnley, I mean, Burnley and Sunderland at home, they're sort of bankers, aren't they, for a team like City? So, and then the FA Cup as well, they were losing to Sheffield Wednesday, and it was more sort of doom and gloom at home. I mean, they don't usually sell out at home, City. I mean, there's a lot of empty seats there, but James Milner came on, didn't he, and sort of got him out of jail, but not playing too well at the minute, but they are picking up wins and they're so close to the top of the table, through to the FA Cup, so it's not too bad for City at the moment.
Yeah, the big news coming from the club at the moment is Wilfred Bonney might be coming in, £30 million apparently. It's a lot of money, but it's probably how much you will have to spend on a striker of his quality. Can't really argue with his numbers. He's probably not as prolific as the likes of Aguero, but he scored more goals in 2014 in the Premier League than any other player, including Aguero. So he's obviously got a bit of pedigree about him. It would be interesting to see how they use him, obviously with Aguero when he's fit, because they would have 4 of the top 5 top Premier League scorers in 2014 if they sign him, which would be incredible. Jovetic and Torre and Dzeko as well there. So it'd be interesting to see how they fit him in the team. Is he the sort of player they need? Obviously, he'll give them more options, and it's a good signing if they can get him. So it'd be interesting to see if they can pull that through, I think.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to say about where he will fit in the team. I think when everyone's fit, Aguero, City don't usually tend to play 2 up front, do they? They've done it in Europe a few times. They've been criticised for it because they get outrun in the middle. But while that's good news, if he comes in, obviously he will be at the Africa Cup of Nations at the moment. I mean, Aguero's injured and Torre as well is out. Such a big player for them, and they play Arsenal and Chelsea the next few weeks before the end of the month. And it's sort of those type of games, I think, that will decide the title more this season, I think, than previous seasons. That'll be the big games because, like I said, they're so tight at the top of the table with Chelsea, level on goal difference and everything. So important for that. And to have Torre, Aguero possibly will be back at some point, but to have him and Aguero out and company struggling as well with injury, will be without Bonney even if they sign him. So it's an important period.
This fixture certainly would have seemed more daunting at the start of the season than it does now, because Everton, they're not in good form at the moment. They lost against Hull last time out. That was the 4th consecutive defeat in the Premier League. I think they're only 4 points off the bottom 3 now, which is terrible. They're 15 off the top 4 after coming so close last season. It's just a huge decline from Roberto Martinez. He's obviously under a bit of pressure now. And then it was important for them in the FA Cup. They looked like they were heading out at Goodison, another defeat. And then Romelu Lukaku popped up with that late equaliser to force a replay. That was such an important goal. They talk after the match about they're hoping it could be a turning point, and they really need it to be. Top 4 might already be out of reach, but they need to start climbing the table because it's been poor so far.
I mean, you mentioned Lukaku. It ties in with Martinez. He spent 28 million on him in the summer, and their record signing, and that's obviously Bill Kenwright and Martinez have a close relationship. I think that's important, but there's got to come a stage where they're coming under pressure. I mean, Brendan Rodgers at Liverpool, they're talking about him being under pressure, but Everton are really not playing well. They lost the last 4 in the league, and like I said, that FA Cup game was so important because if they lose again at home, and West Ham should have won that game, they had a lot of chances, but it's difficult. I don't think Martinez is under too much pressure, but if they lose this game and then they're only 4 points off the bottom 3, like you say, then they lose again, they could find themselves in the relegation zone. And for a team that almost couldn't finish in the top 4 last season is terrible.
Yeah, Bill Kenwright doesn't really tend to sack managers,
No.
So it's got to be something really bad if he is to do that. Do you see them getting anything from this game?
It's difficult. If there's any other season last season, I'd probably back to Everton to possibly win the game. But City haven't got really strikers at the moment. But I just fancy them to nick it. There's just something about City at the moment. I think they'll nick it 2-1.
They seem to be getting results. I agree. City are going to win this one. I think I'm going to go for 3-1. So both going for Manchester City victories. Thanks for watching.